点到1点到2点半，我们会有几个 speaker 上来讲一点有我的公公，还有 Auntie Amy，还有我妈 Uncle John 会上来讲几句，这样我今天就要thank everyone for coming. A lot of people came from all across the country, all across California, over here. And I think 我都不知道这么多人 how many people my whole has affected. And yes, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming. 我们今天可以开始with 我公公说一句，我就是要说I think the biggest thing in life is just to treasure 全部的人。我们知道我觉得我的婆婆，我记得她每次我们看到她会给我那是红包，那是 red envelope， 我每次说不要，她每次都摆在我的 pocket 里面，不给我走，没有钱。每次我们过去她家，她一定要问我的 grades 怎么，我有没有全部 A 这样的东西，这样我会 miss 她很多。这样 I think the biggest thing 就是 treasure 全部的人，你知道。这样今天我要开始，还有公公他会读一点 poem， 还要说一句，谢谢。
谢谢大家。北京发来的北京工业大学60班的同学悼念信，我先讲他这个悼念信。今闻王立军同学仙逝，我们北京工业大学6422班同学怀着万分悲痛，悼念亲爱的丽君同学，他在旅游途中不幸逝世。往事仿佛就在昨天，朋友仿佛还在身边。记得他去世的前1周，还给我们发了几张他在埃及参观的照片。他在做他最喜欢的事情中去世，对我们是不幸中的小小安慰。望他在天国里继续做他喜欢的事情。丽君是一个很要强的人，从不服输。40多岁去了美国，为了能适应在美国的生活，他不辞辛苦，和女儿一起上学，学习英语，用他顽强的意志战胜重重困难，开创了一片天地，在美国站稳了脚跟，工作上取得很大的成绩，实现了他的人生价值。丽君是一个乐观向上的人，退休后虽然身体不太好，但他始终以饱满热情的精神战胜病魔。他酷爱旅游和摄影，他经常把游拍的美丽照片发到了网上，给同学们共同分享。3月4日的照片是他留给我们同学最后的礼物。我们将永远珍藏。年事有寿而尽，生命无尽，无所不在。丽君虽然和我们永别了，但是她对同学们的真挚的热情，对人生的积极追求，对生活的执着、信念和天地永恒与松柏长青。我们和你一起怀念他，直到永远。王丽君同学 已经驾鹤西去，愿他一路走好，去天宫继续他还没有完成的旅途。谢谢。下面是我写给丽君的诗。你飞来了，回到了湾区，你躺下了，睡在我们的家里。你喜欢学习，俄文变成了英文；你喜欢旅游，电脑变成了摄影。你去了意大利、英国、法国、土耳其，你去了西班牙，却留恋在尼罗河两岸里。我理解你的执着，不以贵贱而屈服；我了解你的朋友，不以穷富而疏离。我你同舟50年，不管是吵架还是快乐，我永远融入了你丽君的心底。谢谢。
好，谢谢公公。下个 speaker 就会我的妈明明。
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming this afternoon. I want to express my gratitude for your outpouring of support. And I want to share today just the mom I know. 1949, my grandmother left for the United States right before the takeover of Communist Party, leaving 3 daughters behind in China. My mother and her mom was separated for 30 years before China and United States re-established diplomatic relations in 1978. At age 8, Mom was adopted by her uncle and moved to Beijing. Growing up with a quote black background of having a mom who lived in the United States, my mother did not have the luxury of choice. She was not allowed to go to her dream college. She could not date nor marry boys she liked. She was sent to the countryside after college with millions of other college graduates to be re-educated by the farmers. In 1976, when I was 1, my mom and I moved to the beautiful city of Guilin to be with my dad, who was also sent to the countryside by the government as part of the re-education program. 1978, after shutting down universities in the entire country for 10 years, Chinese government reopened the college admission process. My dad was the first to apply to get his master's degree, and soon he was accepted by Tsinghua University in Beijing. At that time, people were not allowed to move anywhere they wanted unless the government approved it. So my mom and I stayed behind in Guilin. Raising me by herself, Mom learned to do everything. We lived in a one-room apartment, sharing communal kitchen and shared bathrooms with 10 other families. Life was simple, but pleasant for me. During summertime, every day, right after my mom gets off work, she would take me to the beautiful Lijun River for my favorite swim. I'd be sitting on the iron bar of her bicycle with a big float around my neck, while Mom pedaling 15 minutes on a bumpy and paved country road. I'd ask a million questions. Why are there 5 continents? Why won't my silkworms fly away? Why did our rooster call out at 6 a.m. in the morning every day? Mom was always patient in answering all my questions. With the limited resources in the 70s, Mom always tried to do everything she could to make nutritious meals out of anything she could get her hands on. There were no supermarkets or Ranch 99. Nothing was processed. As much as Mom hated it, she learned to slaughter live chicken. My favorite dish was her stir-fried frogs. She bought them whenever the farmers brought them in. When I was 8 years old, we finally were able to move back to Beijing to be reunited with my father. Life started to steadily improve. Mom was always worried about my studies, making sure that I'm working hard to have the brightest future. Mom told me, get into a good college, learn a useful skill, work really hard, find a good husband, and you'll be all set for life. Not exactly, I added the husband part. In Mom's eyes, romance always comes second. Getting a good education was the most important thing. Just a few years ago, Mom was still asking me if I was ever going to get a master's degree. Of course, she carried on the same approach with her grandchildren. They could count on their popo asking their schoolwork every time they meet. Growing up, Mom showed her love through her actions, not her words. Like most mothers, she always wanted to provide the best for me. 1989, when my grandmother extended an invitation to bring our family to the United States, Mom hesitated. After all, she and Dad were well established in their careers in China, approaching retirement with a cushy pension. She would have to start all over in a foreign country with very limited language skills. That would be so much hard work. But for her daughter to have the opportunity to receive the best education in some of the finest colleges in the world, and for her daughter to have the choices she never had herself, she fearlessly accepted the invitation and started a new life at age 48. Like all immigrant families, our family came to this country with our own American dreams. With the help and support of our families and friends here, Mom was determined to stand on her own feet, no matter what. She waited tables while taking ESL classes. She took computer science classes at night at City College so she can one day become a computer engineer. Everyone told her to take it easy. June, people don't learn very well age 50, it's okay not to have a career this late in life. She did not want to hear any of that. She was determined to build her American dream. Mom eventually became a QA engineer working for a Fortune 500 company. During our family get-together, you could always find Mom exchanging field knowledge with her brother and her son-in-law, who both work in the same field. Mom always loved learning new things. Throughout her entire life, Mom exemplified hard work, determination, and perseverance. And in 1970 and 1997, Mom became a proud homeowner. In her lovely home in El Cerrito, she hosted countless gatherings. Many of her friends from China stayed in her home while visiting San Francisco. We were very lucky that we had our annual Chinese New Year family dinner last month. And she and my dad cooked 1 million courses to celebrate the new year, as well as her grandson and my auntie's birthday. About 10 years ago, my father suffered a massive stroke. Mom took care of Dad while working full-time. And 2 years later, she was also diagnosed with breast cancer, underwent surgery and radiation therapy. Amazingly, none of these challenges slowed her down. After Mom's retirement at age 66, she was busier than ever, traveling around the globe, wanting to experience this world to the fullest. About 2 years ago, Mom was diagnosed with ITP, an autoimmune disease. She went through one treatment after another, steroids, surgeries, and countless full-day injections. Some days, she'd have half a dozen needle marks and bruises on her arm. I would ask Mom, "Are you scared? Is it painful?" She'd reply with a smile and said, 老油条了, meaning she had accepted and adopted this way of life. I will forever admire her for her courage, for the courage she displayed in the face of adversity. Mom left this world during her dream tour in Egypt. About 2 weeks before her departure, she confided in a friend, "If I go, I will rather go during my travels." She certainly left the way she wanted. Long time ago, someone once said to me, "If our lives are just smooth sailing, we really haven't experienced life." We're here on earth for a very short period. Mom truly lived it to the fullest. Mom, rest in peace. We'll forever miss you. Thank you.
Next up, 我要给这麦给我的auntie Amy 说几句。
现在我要说，跟我们的家在北京的人待过1年，对不起，我的中文不太好，后来我讲英文。真的让 我是李尊的姐姐、弟弟、妹妹，可是我们知道你们是真的兄弟姐妹。你的爸爸顾大川是李尊的爸爸，你的妈妈夏飞是你的妈妈，你们是他的哥哥、姐姐、弟弟、妹妹。蓉蓉、小泉、小红、小狗、珍珍，我们爱在一起。I just want to say a few words about my relationship with Lijun. I didn't grow up with Lijun. I didn't know I had sisters until my teens in the 1960s. When my mother told me she had daughters in China, she showed black and white photos of beautiful girls. These girls spoke Chinese. They would have been happy to obey everything our mother said. I was going to be replaced. Lijun and I lived very different lives on opposite sides of the world. She was born in China and grew up speaking only Chinese. I grew up speaking only English. Our uncle Gu Dachun was like a father to her. He joined the Communist Party in his 20s. So devoted, he once told my mother, the country was more important than family. My father joined the ministry. He was a Baptist minister, more devoted to God than family. Lijun was marked as having a bad background because her mother lived in the United States. I was marked as a bad girl because my mother in the United States said I didn't listen to her. Through our uncle's help, Lijun was able to attend college and get a degree in engineering, which would be useful for serving the country. I went to San Jose State University because my boyfriend, Lou, went there. And I chose a major, English and linguistics, which made me pretty useless for serving anybody. During the Cultural Revolution, she was sent to the countryside for 2 years to work as a peasant. In the 1970s, I went to the countryside to go backpacking. She eventually married Yansen, an architect whose family background was as bad as hers. I married Liu Dimate, but the main reason was despite his parents who thought a Chinese girl was not good enough for their son. So imagine us two sisters, so different from each other in circumstances, yet we had the same mother, one who should have been with her daughter so they too could have benefited from her love, protection, and constant criticisms. I mean constant. We met in 1987 when I came to China with her mother. We were in essence total strangers to one another. She had short hair and wore a conservative gray pantsuit. I had long hair, wore makeup and jewelry, and had on a purple dress. I said to her, "Ni hao ma." That was all I knew. And she greeted me with some English she had obviously practiced and informed me I was scheduled to give a 2-hour lecture to her engineering department. She had assumed I had vast engineering knowledge simply because I wrote marketing materials for IBM. It was, I believe, among the greatest tortures Lijun and her colleagues had to suffer through. That was the beginning of our sisterhood. Years later, after they lived in the US for quite some time, I remarked to her that her English had not gotten better, it was worse, and that was because her colleagues at work spoke Chinese with her. Meanwhile, my Chinese had improved because that's what I had to speak when I was with Lijun. I actually loved speaking Chinese with her, bad as I was. Among the phrases I heard Lijun say a lot was, "Mei sure," it doesn't matter, and "Mei wenti," no worries, and "Shao wenti," it's just a small problem. I remember her saying those words at the end of a 4th of July dinner at our house. The fireworks were over and she and Yansen left, only to come back about 5 minutes later. Her face looked stricken, her shock was in her eyes. She said, "Yo, you shao wenti." There was a small problem with her car. We went out to see, Her car had crashed through a neighbor's gate and was sitting at an angle on top of 6-foot-high bushes. I have no idea how she climbed down from that. So the definition of Shawanti, I learned that night, means major calamity. The thing is, Lijun downplayed a lot of her big problems. She was strong and never asked for help. When she developed ITP, she never gave me any progress reports. I had to force them out of her, and sometimes she would give me a shocking number, like 4, which was low enough for her to bleed to death. And I would say, "What, you didn't tell me?" And she'd say in return, "No worry." For my birthday, she always gave me sacks of foodstuffs she'd bought at Ranch 99. Pickled everything, fermented everything, Chinese candy, candied olives, ingredients to make a Han orange peel drink I like. I'm not a cook. Jindo opened the cabinet yesterday and deciphered everything. We're going to eat them up. As everyone knows, she loved her garden. One night, we were all watching a Chinese soap opera after dinner. Suddenly she called us to come to her garden. Her tanhua cactus was going to bloom that night. This is a rare cactus that blooms only at night and emits an intense odor and then withers by morning. We never know when it's going to bloom, but that night was the night. Over the next few hours, we went back and forth between the Chinese soap opera and the unfolding of the flower. And Lijun took photos with her fancy camera, and I took them with my iPhone. And when they finished blooming, she cut off 5 or 6 stalks and told me to plant them in pots in my garden. We were lucky that our annual Chinese New Year's dinner a few days before she left for Egypt included all of us. She cooked many different dishes to celebrate her grandson Arden's and my birthday. And several of us were vegetarians, and most of the dishes were ones we could eat. That night I joked she had finally updated her wardrobe. She was wearing a turtleneck, a down vest, and leggings, and not the usual frumpy shapeless pants and sweater. Leggings! I told her she looked younger and very cool, and she laughed that I approved. She was going to wear this on her trip to Egypt, and they were leaving in a few days. Before we said goodbye, she handed me some maluku honey. She said, "The best kind, eat it every day. It's good for your health." I will miss her in many ways I now cannot imagine. I already think about her whenever I open the cupboard and see the shelves jammed with foodstuffs from Ranch 99. I think about her when I eat my spoonful of healthy maluku honey. I will think of her whenever someone says to me, "Shawanti." I think of her each time I go out on the patio of my house and see the tanhua plant. I will think of her fondly when one night the tanhua starts to bloom. She'll be with me to watch.
Amy. Next up, I'd like to have a friend from here at the chapel, May, read a couple letters from one of Popo's friends from Tsinghua University. So May.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to read this piece in the memory. It came from a friend, Wei King Cheng, and I'm reading it out loud so that everybody know that Lijun is really loved by all over the world. Friends came, and I'm starting to read this piece. Today, I'm here to say farewell to our dearest friend, Lijun, who is honest, truly warm-hearted, and precious to us. You will be forever in our memory. I've got to know Lijun since the mid-1990s, when I was working for the R&D Department of Harris Corporation in Red Shores, California. And Lijun was taking care of the automation software maintenance for the microwave production line. Lijun and I met at our company's cafeteria for the first time. We introduced ourselves to each other, and we found we did have quite a bit of common friends and interests. We started to get familiar to each other immediately. At that time, Lijun was working at the company in the daytime, but took computer programming classes at San Francisco City College in the evening. Her dream was to become a qualified software engineer in several years. She was already more than 50 years old, and English was not that great. She had just learned driving not very long and need to drive almost 100 miles on the road between home, work, and school. I told her, your way is not easy and need lots of effort. But she said, she had a very hard life in China for so many years, and she had to fear no fear now. I left Harris and joined another company afterwards. Lijun had also left the company later. We were both busy at our own life and somehow lost contact until getting reconnected each other in 2012. At this year's, Lijun's hard work had been paid off and achieved her dream. She was a successful senior software engineer at Cyberbase Corp before retirement, and had made her a great contribution in the database software development area. Over the years, we had kept a close relationship. They had a warm home in El Cerrito where I visit often. Yang is a very good painter, her husband. And he loved photography. Both, they loved traveling. Her traveling photos album are so beautiful that I enjoy very much. When chatting with Lijun, we have many common interests and speak in the same language. When we talk about another thing, we can open up without hesitation. Of course, her most loved topic is traveling. When she talked about the beautiful nature, the romantic art halls of Paris, Spain, and Italy, she was often unable to stop herself from dancing. She is hardworking, upright, cheerful, and helpful. She has selflessly helped me to receive many friends from China and has visited quite a few places with us. She had won respect and friendship from all of us. Unfortunately, she has breast cancer 9 years ago, and she faced that bravely. A few years ago, she gave up and had to fight with her illness, and she's unwillingly to stop and give up her favorite traveling activities. Not long ago, she told me that her platelet count fell below 20, and she had to continue infusion at the hospital for 2 days. I heard that, and she would soon be traveling to Egypt, and told her must be very, very careful on the road. She told me not to worry. She said she had medicine and knew how to take care of herself. Unexpectedly, her life was terminated in her loved road travel. Although it's much less pain in this approach, but it's too sudden and she is too young. The pain of the loved ones is what makes friends a great sadness. We had agreed before, when you come back from Egypt, we will meet again. We will hear your story and see your album. Now, we can only meet in a dream. Goodbye, my best friend. Several years later, we will reunited in heaven. I'm so honored to speak this on behalf of Wang'S, and I'm really witness this beautiful family have this service in front of our heart, and everything speak very well, and I understand the love, the pain, and all the sadness. But please, I wanted to say one word. We all here for you. Lijun and your family will be well. Say hello to them. Condolences to the family, and also we wanted to say prayers for the family, the surviving family, grandkids, daughters, and all sisters. Today, I wanted to thank you everybody to see this beautiful service again. And as a person, mom of 5, I wanted to share, this is really a special service that I witnessed. Love. Lijun, you rest in peace. Your friends from China, from all over the world, love you. You left your traveling interests, and you wish to have all these pictures shared with your family. Thank you, folks. God bless.
As Todd Schrola earlier, you can see some what the paintings around here. And if you've ever been to their house, you know how talented an artist he is, and just some of the stuff that he painted really showed of their travels. And then, so for everyone else, we have one more speaker, and Uncle John, and then we'll show a slideshow. And then after that, I'd like to open it up to any friends and family, 什么朋友、家人要上来说几句就可以. So after the slideshow, if anyone wants to come up and say a few words after that. So Uncle John.
Hi, I'm Jun's brother. My sister was an inspiration to me. She showed me no matter what problem existed, it was a no problem for her. Challenges never seemed to affect her personality and didn't think for herself, but strived for the best for her family. She seemed at every party, brought some goodies to eat, Chinese dried plum candies to English biscuits. To this day, I have Chinese candy in my pantry that I saved that she gave me at our last Chinese New Year party. She enjoyed giving and watching our expressions of thankfulness that made her smile. That smile was infectious. I see it in her photos. She enjoyed life and making friends and family happy. Please join me in the reception room afterwards and watch the video that I created of her travels and parties. I never knew she went to so many countries and places that would make anyone envious. And I'm glad that everyone's here so I can meet you, because I saw a lot of photos going through this video that I didn't know who they were.